Hey everyone, welcome back. We're always talking about business trends here, but especially when they hit your wallet right. And that's what we're diving into today, those rising delivered costs in cities. I mean, we've all seen those surcharges popping up, but what's the deal? To get to the bottom of it, we're going deep on this report. It's called Navigating the Rise in Urban Delivery Costs. And I gotta say, even I was a little surprised by some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's a pretty fascinating report.
It is, yeah. Like, think about it. You're a small business owner. You're shipping, what, a couple hundred packages a week? And suddenly, bam, an extra dollar on each one just because it's going to a city. That adds up fast.
Oh, it really does. And it's not just online shopping we're talking about here, it's everything. Think
Mhm.
about restaurants sending out food or local artists shipping their work. This stuff is woven into how our cities work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a system-wide issue then, not just a little annoyance, huh?
Right, exactly.
And the report lays it all out, all those rising costs. But before we get into the weeds, I'm curious, what's the big why here? What's making these costs go up in the first place?
Well, cities are these constantly changing things, always evolving, tons of energy, but that creates some unique challenges too. More people, more businesses, more deliveries, all crammed into the same space. It gets complex, and that complexity comes with a price, right?
Okay, that makes sense. But can we get a little more specific? The report uses an example of a small business in NYC. They're shipping, let's say, 500 packages a week.
Ah,
What kind of impact are we talking about for them?
let's break it down. Say that dollar surcharge gets added to all 500 of those packages. That's an extra $500 every week. Now multiply that over a year. We're talking $25,000 more in expenses. For a
Mm.
small business that's already working with tiny margins, man, that's a huge hit.
Wow. Okay, that definitely puts things in perspective. So let's break down the actual factors that are causing these cost increases. The report highlights a bunch, but what are the biggest culprits?
It's really this perfect storm of interconnected factors. Traffic congestion is a major one. More cars on the road, longer delivery times, burning more gas. Ultimately, that all means higher costs for those delivery companies. And then you've got the parking nightmare. Try finding a legal parking spot in a busy city. It can be almost impossible. And those parking tickets, those fees, they definitely add up.
Yeah, I've definitely felt that frustration, even just as a regular driver,
Hmm.
not even doing deliveries. What else is contributing to this cost spiral?
Environmental regulations are playing a role too. Cities, and rightfully so, are pushing for cleaner air. But that often means extra expenses for companies that are using those, traditional gas-guzzling delivery trucks. They might need to invest in a newer, greener fleet, and that doesn't come cheap.
Right, so we've got traffic, we've got parking, we've got those environmental regulations, all adding to the pressure. Is the whole labor shortage thing factoring in as well? Feels like every industry is struggling to find workers these days.
Oh, absolutely. The demand for delivery drivers has gone through the roof in recent years, especially with everyone shopping online and all those on-demand services. Companies have to offer good wages, benefits to attract and keep drivers, and those costs get passed along.
It's all connected. And I imagine the cost of real estate in cities isn't helping either.
You nailed it. Warehouses and distribution centers in cities, that's prime real estate. And prime real estate means a premium price tag. Those costs end up in the overall expenses of doing business. It's unavoidable.
So we've got traffic, parking, regulations, labor, real estate, all pushing those costs higher and higher. That's a lot for businesses to deal with. How are they responding to all this pressure? What options do they even have?
Well, the report outlines a few different strategies. Some businesses try to absorb the cost, but that eats into their profits, and that's just not sustainable. Some raise prices, but then you risk losing customers who are already feeling the pinch. But there's a third option that I find really interesting. It's all about getting creative with their shipping strategies.
Get creative. Now that's what I want to hear about. What does that look like in practice?
Well, one tactic is all about using shipping refunds. Remember you mentioned Franklin Parcel earlier.
Hmm.
They help businesses recover costs from things like, let's say, late deliveries or billing errors from shipping companies. It's kind of like finding hidden money you didn't even know you had.
Clever. I like it.
Yeah.
So instead of just accepting those extra costs, they're fighting back a little, trying to get some of that money back. What other strategies are businesses using to deal with all this?
Another interesting one is something called optimizing shipping zones. Basically, they're adjusting rates or maybe even avoiding deliveries to certain areas within a city, especially the ones that are really expensive to service. It's a balancing act. Trying to be cost effective while still keeping their customers happy.
I see. So being more strategic, more targeted with where they deliver.
Hmm.
Makes sense. Any other innovative things they're doing?
Well, The report also points to the rise of alternative delivery methods. Think
Hmm.
about things like those lockers where you can pick up your package, or maybe local pickup points tucked inside existing businesses, or even mixing it up using traditional trucks for the main route, then smaller vehicles, maybe even bikes for the final leg.
Thinking outside the box, huh?
Yeah.
Trying out different models. I like it. Of all these strategies, which ones seem like they have the most potential? And are there any downsides we should be aware of?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, each strategy is different, right?
Hmm.
And what works for one business might not work for another. It all depends. Like those lockers and pickup points, those might be great in like a super dense city where everyone's walking around, but out in the suburbs, probably not so much.
Right, so one size fits all.
Yeah.
Are there any like drawbacks to these strategies we should think about?
Well, one thing is how it affects consumer behavior. I mean, people are so used to that doorstep delivery now, right?
Yeah.
Anything else, and they might push back a little. Businesses have to balance those cost savings with what customers want and expect.
Right, it's affordability versus convenience. And speaking of consumers, let's switch gears a bit and talk about how all of this affects us, the people getting those deliveries.
Well, as these costs go up for businesses, they got to find a way to make up for it, right? So what happens? Shipping fees go up for us, products get more expensive. We see fewer of those free shipping deals.
Yeah, I hate when free shipping goes away. What else, how else might these rising costs hit us?
We might see longer delivery times. Think about it. Companies are trying to optimize their routes, pack more into each trip to save money, or they might kind of nudge us towards those other options like lockers, even if we don't love them.
So it's not all sunshine and roses for consumers either. But hey, before we get too gloomy, the report did mention some potential solutions, right? What are some things that could make this whole urban delivery situation a little less painful?
Yeah, there are some interesting things in the works for sure. Electric delivery vehicles, for one, they could really cut down on emissions and those gas costs. And then there's the whole drone delivery thing. I know it sounds like a sci-fi movie, but it's getting closer to reality every day.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Drone deliveries.
Hmm.
That's the future, right? What's the potential there, and are there any concerns we should be thinking about?
Imagine it, right? These little autonomous drones zipping around, delivering packages right to your door, no traffic at all. It could be a game changer for those super dense cities, especially for small, urgent deliveries.
Yeah, I can see it now, dodging drones instead of delivery trucks on my way to work. But seriously, are there safety issues? Privacy issues?
These are all valid questions, and companies and regulators are working on them. I mean, there are already rules and protocols in place, and as the technology keeps improving, we'll see even stronger measures to keep everyone safe and protect our privacy.
So basically, we're on the verge of some big changes in how we get stuff delivered in cities. It's exciting, but also kind of mind-blowing, you know?
It is a lot to take in, but cities are adaptable, right? We've always figured out how to deal with new technology. We'll find a way to make this work too.
That's a good point. It's about embracing change, figuring it out. But let's step back for a second and talk to our listeners. What does all this mean for the average person? What should we be paying attention to?
I think the big takeaway is that we all have a part to play in this whole urban delivery thing. As consumers, we can make choices that support sustainability. We can choose companies that care about the environment and their workers. We can try to reduce the number of deliveries we get.
All good suggestions. And I think it's important to be aware of the costs, too. Don't just click that free shipping button without thinking about what's behind it.
Exactly. And pay attention to the delivery options. Maybe that locker pickup isn't so bad, especially if it helps reduce traffic and all those emissions.
It's about being mindful, making choices that match our values.
Absolutely. And this is all constantly changing. The choices we make today will affect how this all unfolds in the future.
So we're not just along for the ride. We're shaping the future of our cities.
That's it. And who knows, maybe those drone deliveries won't seem so futuristic after all. Maybe they'll just be, normal.
I'm ready for those drone-filled skies, but maybe with some noise-canceling headphones. But really, I think we did a good job explaining this complex topic.
I agree, we covered a lot. From the tiny details of why costs are rising to the bigger picture of what it means for businesses, consumers, and even how cities themselves are changing.
But as always, there's more to explore, more to learn, more to discuss. And that's where you, our listeners, come in.
We want to hear from you. What are your predictions for the future of deliveries in cities? What innovations are you excited about? What are you worried about?
We gave you a lot to think about today, but we want to leave you with one final question.
As urban delivery gets more expensive, maybe a little less convenient, will we see people change their behavior? Will we keep putting speed and convenience first? Or will we start choosing options that are better for the environment and our wallets, even if it means waiting a little longer?
It's something to think about. We're all part of this. And the choices we make, big and small, they all matter. They'll shape what urban delivery looks like in the future. All right, we're back. So much to unpack with these urban delivery costs. What are your biggest takeaways so far?
It really hit me that this isn't just some isolated thing. It's connected to everything, how cities work, traffic, the environment, businesses. It's all tangled up together.
For sure. And there's no easy answer. We're talking big changes to infrastructure, technology, even how people shop and think about getting their stuff.
Exactly. And I think that's where the real potential is, right? We have a chance to make urban delivery better, make it more sustainable, fair, and efficient for everyone.
So what should our listeners be thinking about as all this unfolds? What can we do to stay ahead of the curve?
Well, don't underestimate just staying informed. Read the news, research companies and their policies. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Knowledge is power, like they say. The more we get it, the better choices we can make.
And those choices, we have more power than we think. Every time we buy something online, we're kind of saying what kind of delivery system we want.
Right. It's not just about getting our stuff. It's about what we support with our choices.
Yeah, exactly. We can support businesses that are doing things right, thinking about the planet, treating their workers fairly, trying new solutions. And we can look at our own habits, like, do I really need this overnight? Could I combine some orders to cut down on deliveries?
Little things that add up. And don't forget feedback. If you don't like what a company is doing, tell them. Speak up, offer ideas, and of course, put your money where your mouth is.
Businesses do listen, and when they see customers demanding change, they're more likely to adapt and try new things.
So it's about being informed, being proactive, making our voices heard. We're not just passengers. We're helping steer this whole thing.
That's a great way to put it. It's a shared responsibility, and we all have a part to play.
Well, that wraps up our deep dive into urban delivery costs. We've looked at the challenges, the innovations, and the potential for a future that's better for everyone and the planet.
And we've only just scratched the surface. There's always more to learn, more to talk about, more to explore.
That's right. And now we want to hear from you. What do you think the future holds for urban delivery? What new ideas are you excited about? What worries you?
Share your thoughts, your predictions. Because at the end of the day, it's up to all of us to create the cities we want to live in, right?
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Keep learning, keep thinking, and let's keep this conversation going.